We start with our top story today. Donald Trump's baseline tariff of 10% on products from all countries worldwide has taken effect. The blanket tariff was announced by the US president when his speech on so-called Liberation Day sent shockwaves across the global stock market as he unleashed sweeping taxes on imports. On the other hand, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly has spoken with US President Donald Trump about his new tariff policy. Two senior Israeli officials said on Friday as Israel seeks to minimize the impact of the threatened US measures. One of these senior officials has said that most of it can be sold. According to reports, Netanyahu raised the issue in his phone call with Trump on Thursday while on a visit to Hungary. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio also discussed tariffs with Israel's Prime Minister on the State Department said in a readout of their conversation on Friday. As part of a sweeping new tariff policy announced by Trump, unspecified Israeli goods exports to the United States face a 17% tariff. The US is Israel's closest ally and largest single trading partner. As Israeli Finance Ministry official has said that Trump's latest tariff announcement could impact Israel's exports of machinery and medical equipment. Trump has also stated that the Israeli Prime Minister may be visiting the US next week. Meanwhile, Trump's latest tariff policy has sparked fear among Indian exporters. The 10% base tariff will be effective from today, while a flat 26% country-specific duty for India will come into force next Wednesday on April the 9th. However, reports state that Trump is actively negotiating trade deals with India, Vietnam, Israel, according to a senior advisor to the US president. The Indian government has said that it is carefully examining the implications of the tariffs announced by Trump on April the 2nd, and that the Commerce Ministry is assessing the situation along with all stakeholders. Further, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro said during an event in Caracas on Friday that his government is prepared to tackle the tariffs imposed by the United States. Trump has determined that Venezuela will be subject to 15% tariffs, 5 percentage points more than the rest of Latin American countries. The Venezuelan leader has said that they are prepared and are going to be well, and they are going to move forward with popular union with the National Union. Let's take a closer look at what he said.
Se ha desatado una guerra mundial, comercial y económica, y que él tomó un conjunto de medidas de aranceles, de impuestos contra todos los países del mundo para defender a Estados Unidos. Y él ha dicho que es el día de la liberación de Estados Unidos. Yo digo, ¿Estados Unidos tiene que liberarse del mundo? ¿O es el mundo que tiene que liberarse de Estados Unidos? ¿Cuál es la verdad? ¿Quién se libera de quién? Y hoy estamos en las mejores condiciones del plan de la patria. Para nosotros, continuar el proceso de recuperación económica, construcción de nuestro propio modelo económico y superar cualquier perturbación que surja de la guerra comercial arancelaria mundial que ha declarado el presidente de Estados Unidos contra el mundo y contra Venezuela. Estamos preparados y vamos a salir bien librados. Vamos a salir adelante con unión popular, con unión nacional. Bueno, feliz de estar aquí, que hay que cuidarse cualquier cosa que uno diga. Correcto. Entonces, y con el mazo dando, trabajando, laborando.
Staying on market news, employment in Canada fell for the first time in 3 years in March, the National Statistical Agency said on Friday, as uncertainty over US tariffs led businesses to cut staff and stall hiring. Canada shed some 33,000 net jobs in the month, pushing unemployment rate up 0.1% to 6.7%, according to statistics in Canada. Prime Minister and Liberal leader Mark Carney has commented that he knows that a great many Canadians are worried about the latest tariff announcements and that the weeks and months ahead will not be easy, but they will fight against these tariffs. On the other hand, US hiring soared past expectations in March, according to government data, but analysts have warned that this is old news, as the full effects of President Donald Trump's tariffs and federal cuts have yet to ripple through the country. The Department of Labor said that the US added 228,000 jobs last month, much more than what The Economist had anticipated. The jobless rate, meanwhile, edged up to 4.2% from 4.1% in February. Trump called these great job numbers in a social media post, suggesting his policies were already working. Meanwhile, markets continue to plunge, wiping vast sums of investment and retirement portfolios alike. US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned the tariffs were likely to spur higher inflation and lower growth. Wall Street went into freefall following similar collapses in Asia and Europe. The Dow Jones dropped 5.5% and the S&P 5.97%. Losses in US financial markets were estimated at more than $6 trillion since Trump unveiled his Liberation Day tariffs. Trump, however, just posted on social media that his policies will never change and that this is a great time to get rich. US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says President Trump's new tariffs are larger than expected and the economic damage could be too. Speaking in Virginia, Powell had an outlook with elevated risks of both inflation and unemployment. This is what he said.
Turning to monetary policy, we face a highly uncertain outlook with elevated risks of both higher unemployment and higher inflation. The new administration is in the process of implementing substantial policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. Our monetary policy stance is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties we face as we gain a better understanding of the policy changes and their likely effects on the economy. While uncertainty remains elevated, it is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. The size and duration of these effects remains uncertain. While tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation, it's also possible that the effects could be more persistent.
Despite pressure from President Trump to cut rates, Powell said more data is needed before acting, cautioning that the impact of these tariffs could be more persistent than many had predicted. The chair said the following.
We'll continue to carefully monitor the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We're well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. It is too soon to say what will be the appropriate path for monetary policy.
Moving on now, a deadly Russian ballistic